Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
I'm MK.
How are you?
I am fine. I was like
Great.
trying I was like trying to think of like what am I even gonna say? Like I genuinely I have no idea.
Mhm.
I've done nothing. I went to a fancy dinner for Dan's chorus on Saturday
Yeah.
and they got an award. And he's so cute because they were like, we're going to give out some awards. And I was like, babe, you're going to get an award. And he was like, why? And he was like, why would I get an award? And I go, well, you've been in the course for 15 years. And he goes, yeah, but like, that's not for this. This is for like people who've been here forever. And I go, okay.
It's a
And
long
then,
time.
right. And then they go, we're going to start with our awards for 15 years. And he goes, oh God. And I was like, yeah, dummy.
You dummy.
I took a picture of him for it, and it might be my favorite picture I've ever taken of him. It just like was such a good picture.
It is. It's a great picture. I saw it.
Ugh. But yeah, just living 26 more days of school.
Nice. Nice.
Which is simultaneously the best thing in the entire world because I'm so done, but also when I start to get massive anxiety that I will not finish everything.
Oh yeah. You got this.
Woo! I don't know if I do.
Faith in you.
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ow.
What did
Sorry.
you just do?
My fingernails just like hit the plastic of my headphones and it echoed so loud in my ear. I was like, what is happening?
It got stuck in your braid when you were like flipping it.
Oh, I just like forgot how to use my hands. That's what it was.
Okay. That's okay.
You
You
know,
don't need hands for this.
no, not at all. How are you?
I am a plethora of pop culture. Um,
I'm sorry. What?
I've just been like living it up in all of the worlds of pop culture and
Oh, okay. Right.
entertainment and whatnot. Um, I saw Pussy Riot in concert Saturday night. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I was not, but they are this Russian collective that actively fights out against like Putin and harsh censors.
I feel like I've heard of them.
They're incredible. It was
Okay.
wild. I was there with Nora and she wasn't feeling well. So she was sitting down, so I just put my stuff beside Nora and then just kept like scooting
Yeah,
closer to the stage. It was incredible. Um,
I love that.
and then I saw Ramblin' Jack Elliott Sunday, which probably close to the end of his performances. He is very old, but like got a living legend. He was so incredible to see. Um, been reading books. I don't know if everyone else is as nerdy as me and Nora, but while we were in Tulsa, did you ever read the House of Night series?
Oh.
So it's set in Tulsa, and they kept talking about Utica Square. I forgot. It's been 12 years since I've read these books. But Nora also had read them, and so she remembered. And so we went to Utica Square and like took pictures and stuff because it was where the book was set. Very
I
fun.
love it. Love it.
And I'm reading the new oh gosh, it's like right beside me. It's called like House of Horrors, or
Okay.
it's the new Riley Sager book because I love Riley Sager. Um,
Nice.
and last but certainly not least, I texted you the other day, but it's a show we've been talking about for ages because every person on the planet's in the show. Finally
Correct.
working watching Dirk Gently, Holistic Detective Agency. I am like
Perfect.
6 episodes in, but it's so good. It's so funny. Dirk Gently's hilarious, and I highly recommend it to everyone. So I am just really deep diving into my
I love
entertainment
that.
world.
I hate my brain though, because you said that you were a plethora of pop culture. And while thinking it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard, it also made me think that I needed to look something up that I now have no idea what it was. Zero idea what I was going to look up. But like I'm staring at my phone, being like, I needed to look something up, but I don't know what it is.
I mean, that's also like not a reference point, so I'm not really sure what you thought you
No, no, it was like
were.
it triggered like a different thought in my brain that
Hey,
I thought had something to do with the podcast, but I genuinely could not begin to tell you what it was. So if I
well,
just like randomly shout something out in the middle of this podcast episode, it's because I remembered what the fuck I'm thinking about.
your plethora of pop culture. Um, yeah, so that's how I'm doing. I'm just really deep diving into the entertainment of the world because it's been a long week. I just got back from Tulsa and I leave for Nashville on Sunday. So
Yeah,
very tired, and just trying to make it through. So,
good
you
for
know what
you.
helps me make it through?
Lying to yourself?
Also that, but now my spirituality.
Oh, okay. Well, it's because I chose for this week a quote that I like because it is how I lie to myself.
Next.
I don't actually believe this, but I feel like if I did believe this, it would make my life better. And that says, it is a quote from JD Salinger.
Okay.
It says, I am a kind of paranoid in reverse. I suspect people of plotting to make me happy.
Oh, that's so kind.
I feel like if I like convinced myself that instead of thinking everyone was out to get me and I just
Right.
convinced myself that everyone was out to make my life better, I would have such a better life.
So if you canceled anxiety,
Yeah.
yes.
I would like to subscribe to the JD Salinger brand of anxiety.
I like it. I'm in. I'm in. Let's do it.
Although I'm afraid I don't know enough about him to not assume that he was one of those authors that did a lot of fucking drugs. And so like maybe,
I mean, he probably did.
yeah.
Opium was rampant in his time. So like,
Yeah, maybe I'm an asshole because I'm an English teacher and I don't know shit about JD Salinger.
I mean, he's one of the ones that like I never read Catcher in the Rye. So like I
Me
don't
either.
have like
It's because everything I've read about it, I'm like, I don't like this.
yeah. Yeah, I don't have a good frame of reference for him. I just know who he is and like
Yeah.
from a distance.
Distance.
Yeah. But on that note, not from a distance, but up close and personal, we are watching American Horror Story,
Oh,
season
so many
1,
thoughts.
episode 5, Halloween Part 2. Eek! It aired November 2nd, 2011. So right around the Halloween holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It was rated, same as last Sci-Fi Sunday, 8.1 out of 10. And
Oh, we keep doing that where we have double ratings.
I know I thought that you said it earlier, and I was like, I'm not going to say this every week because it keeps happening.
It keeps happening.
Like I'll just let it pass for this one. Um, Everything's the same. Song is Someone Like You. Book is movies Puss in Boots, and book is Best of Me by Nicholas Sparks. Nothing's
Great.
changed. We had Halloween. That's it. We did
Yep.
it. Nothing happened
Fantastic.
today. So just pick some facts for you. Um,
Great.
People who were born on this day, it's a very eclectic mix.
Yeah.
Scorpios that I would have guessed 2 out of 3. Um,
Okay.
David Schwimmer,
Okay.
um, Ross from Friends, um, Nellie, as in Nellie,
Nelly.
um, and Hannah Hart were all
Okay.
born November 2nd. Obviously not of 2011, but
My
yes. And,
internet is not working on my phone
no,
because
um,
I'm trying to figure out if J.D. Salinger did drugs.
I would hesitate to say yes very confidently. Um, and there was only like one big death from this day in all of history that
Okay.
but it was George Bernard Shaw. He died in 1887 on November 2nd.
Oh, wow.
Because you know how I like to pick births and deaths when I can't find anything else about the world. So the director,
Oh, no, I don't think he did drugs. He was like
Hilly.
weird. He's like weirdly spiritual. He was like in the thing that happened before Scientology and he lived until he was 91. So I think he might have actually like
What was he in? What was before Scientology?
It
Like,
was called Dianetics.
oh, I don't know that one.
And he like a spiritual, medical, nutritional belief system, including Christian Science, homeopathy, acupuncture, and macrobiotics. He did Kyrie yoga.
So he did some really Eastern practices.
Yeah, so like if he did drugs, it was all like fucking weird hallucinogenics to like get in touch with your inner being.
Interesting. Hmm. Would not have guessed that, but I also have not read his book, so maybe I would have guessed if I read his books.
Maybe.
Yeah, I should read them. It sounds like I should read his books though. Like, it's a wild.
Right.
Um, yeah, so our director is David Semmel, who is returning. Um, Writers, we have Brad Falchuk and Ryan Murphy.
Okay.
And then a new writer we have is Tim Minear. He's
Okay.
for American Horror Story, some show called Feud that's still going on. Firefly, which I haven't
Feud.
watched,
Wait,
obviously.
Is Feud the one that is the oh, it's an anthology. Oh, but the first season of Feud was the Joan Crawford Betty Davis show.
I never heard of this show, so I
Oh
did
my
not know
God. No, yeah, it's an anthology show. It's like an FX anthology show that Ryan Murphy was part of that he was on, but like the first season was about Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. I
wrong.
didn't realize it was an anthology. Oh no, it is only an anthology because they had intended to make a second season, but they haven't actually made one yet. It's only one season and it's got Susan Sarandon as Betty Davis and Jessica Lange as Joan Crawford and Stanley Tucci as Jack Warner.
Oh God, I love Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love that. Um, had not heard of that. Guess I should check it out though, because that sounds very
Yes.
interesting.
No, you would love it.
Did you watch it already, the first season?
No, but I've read
You should.
everything. It's one of those things that, like, because it's about theater people, I've read everything about it.
Um, yeah, that makes sense. But he was also known for a show that I am intending in my lifetime to become intimately familiar with, but have not so far. Angel. So
Mm,
my computer, I plugged it in and it did not plug in. What just happened?
I don't know. Maybe it was my intense sexual desire just stopped it from charging.
Oh, my plug-in has a on-off button in my new.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah,
oh
but
no,
I
so it was not just my lust for David Boreanaz.
it was not you, but that was a really good guess though. Um, no, I really want to watch Buffy. It's like one of the majors on my list. I'm planning to watch after I finish X-Files and Supernatural.
So in the year 2072.
Right, right. But it is next on my list of like long form shows I'll watch.
Yeah.
Couple things about him. Really, I spoiler alert, I feel like no fun facts about anything I'm about to tell you until we get into the show.
Okay.
But he signed a seven-figure deal with 20th Century Fox specifically for Angel. And he ended up leaving at the end of like fourth season and then came back at the fifth season because he went and worked on Firefly and all this stuff. It was like a whole up
A
and
whole
down.
debacle.
Yeah. And he was born in New York City.
Great.
Our editor is Fabienne Bouvel or Bouville. Bouville? I don't know.
Yeah.
They're probably Bouvie. They're from France. Um, they're known for American Horror Story, something called Becca and Molly, and something called Nana. I did not know anything else they were known for, aside from American Horror Story. But she graduated from Columbia also. So,
Fantastic.
but, and our character we're going to talk about from this episode is, of course, and indeed, and finally, Jamie Brewer, who plays Addie Langdon. And she's known for American Horror Story, Cherry, Station 19, and Turnover. couple of fun facts for her. She was the first model with Down syndrome to walk down a runway
I
on
love
February
that.
12th of 2015. It was a show called Role Models, not Runway Models.
Oh, I love that.
Get it? I get it. But
I
also,
get
like,
it.
why can't they be runway models? Like,
Yeah.
why not both? Por qué no las dos? But fine. Um, but I get the sentiment,
Yeah.
which is nice. She was the 2018 New York Drama Desk winner for Best Featured Actress in a Play. She was in Amy and the Orphans, which I do not know.
Oh, I do. Okay.
Excellent. Do you want to like tell the class what it is?
Nope, because I don't remember. I just remember that it was a big deal when it,
Hmm.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it's lovely
And I,
because,
I remember that people were hella impressed with her.
I mean, you've seen her on 5 episodes of
No,
American Horror
I
Story.
know I have, but in film acting, there's a lot of like you can do a scene and then take a break and you don't have to memorize things as much as with stage acting. And there's a level of emotion that you have to reach on stage that you don't have to on film. And so like she was very impressive in the show.
I would only imagine she would be.
Yeah.
Um, and so we start with a recap of the last episode. Mini recap to get us into present day. We start with Larry banging at the door, asking for $1,000 still,
Mhm.
and we like see some scenes, and we go to Violet. We see the rubber man behind her. We see her calling her dad. We're getting the very
Yeah.
end of the episode, and then we switch to Violet's point of view, and
Yes.
we see kind of where she goes from there because all we knew last minute was she was gone.
Hmm.
And so she's kind of like backing away and she goes to stand by her bed and a creepy hand comes out from under her bed to grab her.
Absolutely not. I was so fucked up with that.
And we've just seen Rubberman and and then we have Rox in the window and Tate is outside getting her attention. So
Yes.
because you don't get the answers this episode, who do you think is in the rubber band suit and who do you think is reaching out from her under the bed?
Listen, I don't have a fucking idea.
Okay,
I
that's
don't.
fair.
I don't have an idea because everybody that is dead in the house is there, was somewhere else in this episode except for the doctor and the creepy fucking pig baby.
Sure.
And I don't think it's the mutilated infant in the rubber suit.
Well, it's a very, very valid guess. Very valid
So
assumption.
I guess that would narrow down my guesses to either the creepy doctor or someone we still haven't fucking met yet.
And we're halfway through the season now. Because there's 10 episodes in every season.
Yes, I understand that. And I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about American Horror Story, but they were talking about
Okay.
season 4. Um,
No spoilers. Are you getting spoilers?
no, the spoiler was that it was not well written and that nothing had been as good as the first season.
That's fair.
Like that's a spoiler. Um,
That's fair. But tune in when we do the other seasons still. They're fine. Rest of the world. But you don't have a
yeah,
choice to be here for that.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting theories.
Yeah.
So so Tate's throwing rocks the window. And instead of like going outside to where he is like a normal person, she goes down to the basement to meet him where she always does. Fine. I don't understand it, but okay. And it turns out that he painted her a black rose because he said, I know you
Because
don't like normal things.
that is the most romantic thing anyone's ever said.
Isn't it? Like, I feel like if you had told me this 10 years ago, I'd be like, that's weird. I feel like if you had told me like today, I'd been like, you know, I feel like someone should say that to me. I feel
Yeah,
like that would
no,
my
no,
ex-boyfriend should do that to me.
it's yeah.
You're out there and you're listening. Now you know. Yeah. And now we're back at the end of the last scene where Larry's been banging on the door, and then Ben and Viv get home,
Yeah.
and he opens the door to Hayden, yada yada.
Yes.
And then we jump. It's a bit smidgy in the beginning. Um,
Hmm.
so we jump back to Violet, who's at the beach with Tate. Very cute, very cute. So we know where she is. Great, she's safe. Then we go back to Ben, and he pulls out a knife while Vivian's kind of wandering around.
Yeah, because he's gonna stab Hayden because he thinks
Right.
she's just alive and stalking him.
She's at the door, yeah, of course. And
He, I don't, I don't understand. Like, I also not a big believer in the whole everything that is like supernatural, like ghosts just like walking corporeal up to me kind of thing. But you straight up built a gazebo over her corpse. What do you think is happening?
well, to be fair, he's losing his mind, but you know. But Vivian is just like not having it. She's like, "Why do you have a knife? This is nonsense. Why do you have a knife? This is crazy.
Yeah.
You're gonna
And
stab someone."
he's like, somebody messed with the pumpkins. She goes, so you're gonna stab them? Like,
She's like, "You're gonna kill the kids. That's fine." Like, and then she confirms what we heard last end of last episode that she's going to have him move out by tomorrow.
yeah.
So,
She's like, I'm gonna go take a bath, and in the morning we're gonna discuss the fact that you're getting the fuck out of here.
and that's the credits. So again, we had an episode where we didn't have a flashback. Our flashback wasn't
Well,
last,
technically we had, yeah, I was gonna say technically we did have a flashback. It was just to earlier that night.
right? It wasn't like a family flashback to the family before.
Yeah.
So then, Ben,
I just thought of who's dead in the house that we haven't seen yet.
who's that?
Larry's wife and child.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't think Larry's wife is in the rubber man suit. I'm gonna throw that one out there.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting. Interesting thoughts. Please tell me every person you think of because it just brings me joy to hear your thoughts.
listen,
Um,
my number one wildest theory was confirmed in this episode, so it's fine.
okay, we'll get there because I don't know which theory you're talking about.
Okay.
Um, so Ben walks outside. We go back to Ben. It's like immediate next scene. Ben walks outside with like a shovel and finds Larry outside and immediately blames him for Hayden. And he's like, "You did this. You tricked me. First of all, you watched her on the ground put a gazebo over, like you said. Like, how
Yeah.
did he?" And but he just beats him up. He's
Yeah.
like, "I'm just gonna beat you
Just
up."
casual.
And so he threatens Larry, and Larry's just like, "Yeah, great, kill me, but do it here."
Please, please do it here so that I can come back and fucking haunt you too.
Yes. He's like, "Great, let's do this. I'm ready." Like he's
Yeah.
got a brain tumor. He's gonna die soon. He doesn't have anything going for him. He can't get his $1,000 to become an actor. Like,
Right.
just let it go. Let it go, dude. And obviously he doesn't murder him. But then the cop shows up way late. So like we have this button, just like a panic button, so the cop will immediately show up.
Mhm.
Uh it was pressed before, or like it went off when the alarm went off. So when she opened the door, when Violet
Yeah.
did, she's all the way at the beach right now, and everyone's gotten home. And we've had this whole shindig with Larry outside, and then the cop shows up, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you for coming so fast."
Yeah. I don't trust him.
That's fair.
Obviously, by the end of this episode, it is confirmed that it's not like he's a weird spirit because he was awake and out of the house after
Sure.
like sunrise. But I don't think I trust him.
Honestly, I would go into every American Horror Story episode not trusting anyone until there is clear proof you should trust them.
He just well in the first episode that he was in, he just seemed like a genuinely like whatever. He was a cop, he was doing security. He seemed like he was like fine. But he's way too invested in Viv's like well-being in a way that isn't like okay, cool. Obviously he has a crush on her, but like it's a little much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Totally fair. Fair feeling. Um, But then we go back to Tate and Violet, and they are getting after it, like hardcore. And then Tate basically pulls back and says he can't sleep with her. And she immediately gets angry. And he's like, I think it's because of my meds, like blah, blah, blah. She makes up all this stuff. Yes.
Because he's dead. But like,
So we learned that this is Tate's happy place, this beach area.
yeah.
And he comes here all the time. And then he like goes on and on about dropping out. And he starts talking about like Steve Jobs dropped out and all these people like Bill Gates dropped out and how like they're so successful. And he's like, I'm fine. Like I dropped out, but I'm still like gonna be okay. And then
Yeah, okay. During the scene when he's talking about what he used to do and not wanting high school, and it was very clearly a past tense conversation, and there was a look on Vi's face like she didn't quite understand the tense in which he was speaking, but she never questioned him, and that is concerning to me.
I mean, she's a teenage girl in love. Love is blind, don't you know? So
Love isn't blind, love is insane.
love is
Hashtag or dash next to normal. But
yes. And on that note, a group of dead high schoolers walk up and start like fussing about. And he can't seem to figure out why they're there, but they won't leave him alone. And he's like, fine, we're just gonna go. We're gonna go. It's like not even worth it.
I also couldn't figure out why they were there, but not because I didn't understand the plot. I understand what happened in the story. That's not my issue. My issue is that the cheerleader and the jock that were dead were played by Brando Eaton and Ashley Rickards, who played Adam and God, what is her name?
I don't know. It's my
The main character in Awkward.
yeah.
They're two of the three main characters in Awkward, and I could not like immediately. I was like, what are they doing here?
So I didn't watch Awkward, but that is one of my facts from the like trivia in the end is that they were the
Oh,
main
I
characters.
obsessively watched Awkward. I know that's why I'm so mad that I can't think of the main character's name. Um, but yeah, no, obsessively watched Awkward. And so I immediately was like, and the fact that they were there together playing characters that looked very similar to their characters, it
They
threw
were
me
high
all
school
off.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what is
But
happening?
this would have been like right before Awkward, right? Because that came out while we were in college. Is that right?
Um, it came out, nope, in the same year, 2011.
Oh, so they were just like hanging out together all year, is what you're telling me.
Right, it's 2000, it started in July of 2011. So, and they
That was
were,
before this.
yeah. So they had already done the first season together. So that's why it's the same time period in their lives, the same year, the same character, like
Art.
visual. And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
I
Jenna,
wish
by the way, Jenna is her name in Awkward.
See, I watched like 2 episodes of Awkward my whole life. So like I was unfamiliar with but I did notice that when I looked it up. Um yeah, so they all show up at the beach and they like mess around and then they cause like Tate and Vi to try to leave. So we go back home.
Yeah.
Viv is getting ready for her bath, steaming up the bathroom, and her phone rings. And it's Hayden calling her back. And now, not only do we finally get this conversation between Viv and Hayden, we learn a bit of Viv's backstory too.
Yeah.
That she also fell in love with a married man and had an interesting time. And so she's trying to like connect with Hayden and she's trying to like give her the benefit of the doubt. And she's like, look, I get
Yeah.
it. Stop calling, stop showing up, blah, blah, blah. And then Hayden just says, ask him about Boston. And like just kind of drops it at that. And when she hangs up the phone, we
Yeah.
get this panorama of the view. And we get a bit of a jump scene. I thought this would have been the perfect scene to see like a flash of Hayden in the steam.
Yeah.
Like in one of those scenes where it's like you see it behind the steam, but then it disappears before you realize what you've seen. So like
Hmm.
I was like, that would have been excellent visual right here. But instead, we get the more cliche mirror scene where
Yeah.
you have the writing on the mirror this with the steam on it, and it just says, ask him. So then Viv runs out, obviously, and tells Ben that Hayden's somewhere in the house. How she thinks she got into the bathroom wrote ask him on it while she was in there the whole time. I don't know, but fine. And so this knife that he's continuously had on him,
Yeah. Just carrying it around.
just carrying it just in case. He takes it downstairs because he knows the basement's the place that everyone is. So
Correct.
he goes down to the basement, and obviously Hayden's there. And
Obviously.
he's like, I knew you'd find me, blah, blah, blah. We're in love, yada, yada. And she's acting like such a fool and how they're going to be together and how they're meant to be together. And then she just starts bleeding from her orifices. And we learn that she's rotting from the inside out, which is like a terrifying thought. Like, could you imagine?
No, no, I could not.
And then once we like have settled with that, Larry comes up and just beats Ben down, knocks him out. And he tells Hayden that he wants to help her take care of Viv. I was like, well, that's not good. That's not a good scene for him. Um, and then we go back to Viv, who walks outside, and she finds Chad beating up the pumpkins outside and throwing, or like, and just like throwing things around. And he starts threatening her to get out of the house. And he's like, this is my house. You can't do this to me, blah, blah, blah. And of course, she's like, this man is insane. So she locks him out, as she should.
Yeah.
And then we go back to hate. It's like this whole episode, I feel like it's just like a jump collage of one thing to another.
Yeah, it was very disjointed.
Very disjointed. And
Like, good information was not unenjoyable to watch, but very disjointed.
very disjointed. And like to talk about, it's hard to connect all the scenes because they're
Yeah.
so disconnected. So we go back to Hayden, who's in the bathtub, and we hear Viv, like we see her in the bathtub and like sinking down, and we hear Viv calling for Ben. Ugh. You'd think she'd just be like, everyone needs to get out of here. I'll just take care of myself. It's fine. And then she hears the dog barking near the basement, of course. And she immediately pushes the panic button to call the cops. So it's the
Right.
second time she's called, the cops have been called to come out tonight.
Yeah.
So she follows kind of where the dog is, and then she goes back to the bathroom. She opens the door, and the towels are just on fire. And we
That
saw that
makes,
Larry had his lighter and was ready to light stuff on fire. So,
yeah.
and then shortly after, Violet gets home, and she immediately gives Tate the third degree about the kids. She's like, "You have to know more," and he's like, "I swear I don't. I swear I don't." She's like, "You literally have to know more. Like, there's no way these kids are just chasing you around for no reason."
They're like, they know you. And he's like, which is great because I don't know them.
Yeah, and then they show up again at the house because they followed them there. These kids just like don't let up.
Yeah.
And then Viv gets a call from Hayden, and Hayden is being super creepy, and she's like, "Where are you? You're in my house, yada yada." And Hayden's like, "Well, I just couldn't let the bubbles go to waste." Creepy. She's just like such a creep. Like Kate Mara is such a good actor. I saw that there's a new film coming out with her in I think on Hulu,
Oh,
and maybe it's a TV show. I don't know if it's a TV show or film, but there's a new show
okay.
with Kate Mara coming out, and I'm like invested already, and it's not even out yet.
Okay.
Um, so she's saying that, and then and then Hayden is on the phone with her still, and she's like, "Come here, girl." And she's like, "I would if you tell me where she is or where you are." And she's like, "I wasn't talking to you." This girl is such a creep. And
So gross.
And then she starts being like, I like what you've done to the kitchen or something. I don't remember what she said. She said something about the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so then Vivian goes to the kitchen in a very upsetting scene.
One of
She
probably the most upsetting scenes I think ever because once it started, I go, oh shit, I know what's happening because I know I've seen people talk about this scene before.
and it's the traditional urban legend scene where the dog has been put in the microwave and turned on, which is very upsetting. And then we see the blood where the dog is in the microwave. It's very sad. Um,
But don't worry, Hallie's still there because she's a fucking ghost dog now.
okay, no, that's not what happened, but it's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. So we go back to Violet, and she walks outside with a weapon to these kids because she's like, I'm gonna take care of it. It's fine. Me, I'm one person. These people are five people who are very like jocks and stuff. So like I can take them though, no problem.
No problem.
So she starts threatening them, and we get a vague inclination that pretty much tells us these are the kids that Tate killed. If
Yeah.
we before, this is when we start really getting kind of the backstory.
And the kids realize that Vi doesn't know Tate is dead.
Yeah, yeah, like figuring things out, and then
Sounds just did
Tate
something
runs outside
weird.
and he's like,
I cannot hear
"Huh?
you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Ugh.
Can you
All
hear me
right.
now?
Yes. Sorry, it just boot. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, it just like booted my headphones for some reason,
Okay.
and I couldn't hear anything because the speakers also weren't connecting because it had been connected to my headphones, and I was like, I don't know what happened.
Very strange, but yes, I can hear you. I'm glad you can hear me.
Okay.
So Tate runs out, and he's basically like, "I'm gonna see how fast you really are," and just like takes off so the kids chase him. And so Violet calls the cops, who have already been called, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And as she's getting settled and all this, Constance comes and takes her home. And she's like,
Mhm.
"Come with me." And she's like, "I don't want to." And she's like, "You're the reason Addie's dead." I'm like, okay, yeah, probably go.
Great.
And we go back to Viv, and JK, Hallie's alive. She did not die. That scene was the traditional take on the urban legend when it's a lie is she put what'd she say? She put like a ham or like
She
or
said she
some
put tomatoes in there.
tomatoes. That's what it was. Yeah.
See,
So the
but
dog.
I didn't believe that. I thought she just said that, but I thought it was just that Hallie was now a ghost.
Oh no, Hallie's alive. It was just tomatoes. Yeah. So the dog
Okay.
didn't actually. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems very upsetting when it's happening.
I
Um,
just assumed that it's a horrible show and everyone's a ghost anyway, so it didn't matter.
that's very fair. That's a very fair assumption. Um, but yeah, and so then Hayden's telling her, she's like, great, now that we're here, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. And this is the moment Hayden realizes Vivian's pregnant, and the moment Vivian realizes Hayden's pregnant. And they're both just like horrified to learn this.
Yes.
And it's so sad. And now that Hayden knows, she's like, great, it's cool. Gonna cut your baby out. And she's like, no.
Absolutely the correct response.
Right. Yeah. She's like, this is what's going to happen. Everything's going to be fine. I was
Hmm.
like, that is also not how it goes.
Right, right,
But
right. It's
we go
fine.
to Larry, who's just pouring gasoline around
Yeah.
everywhere. And Chad finds him pouring gasoline everywhere. And he's like, don't do that to my house. And then we jump to Nora because we're going to all of our ghost friends who
Yeah.
find him. And she wakes him up. And in her creepiest but like necessary way, she just tells him to save the baby. No more knowledge. No more knowledge. Just save the baby.
Yeah.
So we go to
She
Viv
but
and
she's she also says something about like like him being pathetic and needing to be better than that. And I was like, Nora, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong. Yeah. So then we go to Vivid Hayden and she's trying to cut out the baby. And that's when Ben comes in to save the baby, quote unquote. And Hayden goes off and she's like, tell her about Boston. And finally, Vivian asks him, and he's like, I wasn't going to see a patient, I was going to see Hayden. And this is where we learn not only was he cheating on her with Hayden, a year after he was supposed to have not seen Hayden anymore, he had gone back
Yeah,
to see. That's when she got pregnant. So it wasn't even from the original time.
right.
And then in that moment, the cop shows up because he's got this like
Weird, weird timing. Yeah, I don't trust him.
Then we go to Constance's, someone else we don't trust. At least I don't trust. I never trust Jessica Lange's character. Um,
Yeah, I definitely think that there's some weird stuff going on there, but I don't know. I don't know what it is yet. Like, I'm still so on the fence with her because, like, obviously she killed Moira. She's not a good person, but there's more going on there.
but she also killed Maura in the heat of the moment. Like,
Right. No, for sure. Oh my God. Her husband also died in the house. Sorry, I'm just remembering all the dead people.
so many dead people. So many dead people. Yeah. So we're at Constance's and she's telling her about Addie, and she's just like so morbidly talking about like how she looked when she was dead on the table, and we see kind of this flashback of her going through all the emotions, and she puts all the makeup on her to make her look like a pretty girl, and it's just like such a sad scene.
And
Like, poor
then
Constance.
she tells Violet a piece of information that I have been saying since the first episode.
She says that Tate is her son.
In the first episode, when she tells Viv that she had a bunch of kids and only one of them that she liked, and that one is dead, I was like, it's Tate. I called it from the moment she said it.
And
And
you did.
you were like, I obviously know that you like react to my rumors or my guesses in a way that is not confirming or denying anything, but you kind of looked at me like I was a crazy person when I said that.
Of course I did, because you don't know that in the first episode.
I did.
Yeah, but we're not telling you any spoilers in the first episode.
No, I know, but I know things. That's what I
You
do.
know,
I drink and I know things.
you do. And so Constance blaming both herself and Violet, and she gives Violet a cigarette. They're just gonna smoke up together. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's when she tells her that Tate's her son. She tells Violet she can't tell Tate. She's like, he can't know about this.
It's like he will not take kindly to his sister being dead.
It's so sad. Speak of the devil, they finally catch up to Tate. And it's such a strange scene because it's like he doesn't remember.
And I think he genuinely doesn't.
Because I think he's blocked it all out because you see him get the pieces of it,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't see the full scene.
And I think that even at the time when he did it, I don't think he knew who they were. Like I don't think it was a targeted thing. I don't think he chose them. I think he just had a psychotic break. And so I think his like freaking out and saying that he doesn't know them is so genuine. It's heartbreaking because obviously like they're not wrong to be angry and to be hurt,
Yeah.
but he didn't do it
They do it on
to
purpose.
hurt them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
It's
it's
fucked.
also where we find out that they're all meant to be 34 years old. So this was, what was it? I think they said like, it was like 19 years ago because they're like 15, 16,
Yeah.
18, 19 years ago. Um, and then we go back to the house and Moira is going home with Chad and they're chatting it up. And she's talking about her mother passing away and not being able to go with her. And then Patrick shows up and Chad's obviously mad at him, but Patrick's like, just forgive me. And you can tell this is kind of like their routine.
This is like every Halloween. And then the twins are coming in and the
Nurse.
nurses.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
everybody's just going home after their annual night out.
so you see all this, and then you see the cop has taken Hayden to the station, and he's going back and forth with her, yada yada. But when they pull up to the station and he goes to open the door, she's gone.
Now, my question about that, this is obviously I don't know that you can answer it without it being spoilery, but what is the consequence of that? Like all the other ghosts were like were coming back and they were like actively going back to the house now that the night was over. And like the teenagers on the beach were like, sun's almost up, we have to leave. And she didn't go home. So does that mean she's done? Like she's gone? Like I don't understand because obviously if the consequence of just of like if you just disappear from existence by just not going home when you're supposed to, why would any of them still be at the house if they could just leave? So like I'm not sure what that is. And like I said, I don't know that it's something you can explain either from not having the knowledge or from it being spoilery, but it's just I am confused as to what the consequence of her being there in the morning would be.
That's a great question. It does get addressed
Okay.
in one of the last episodes of the season. I don't remember if
Okay.
it's the very last one or the next to last one.
Okay.
You will get your answer.
Okay. No, I just because I didn't know if it was like spoiler or plot hole.
Oh, it's a spoiler because
Okay.
they explain it.
Okay.
But yeah, so now we're back at home. Ben's packing. Viv is sitting with the dog and recovering from this chaos. And he leans over, kisses her on the head, and leaves. And that's the end. Yeah. So that's part two. I feel like it was such kind of a chaotic episode that it was hard to
Yeah.
talk about. Also, it wasn't as active. Like I would watch
Yeah.
like 5 minutes and be like, "Oh, here's a note to take." Like
Yeah,
wasn't.
well, that's why I mean, I usually don't take a ton of notes anyway. And like, I had a couple things that like I knew I wanted to talk about. Like, I wanted to talk about the thing about the people from Awkward. I wanted to talk about not trusting the cop, and I wanted to talk about Tate, and I wanted to talk about my questions about the way the nighttime thing works.
Right.
But I didn't take any notes at all while I was watching it because I was like, I can remember four questions.
Right. I can remember these very specific things. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and not, again, it wasn't a bad episode,
Yeah.
but it wasn't,
Discussion heavy.
yeah, it was not the most pull it apart kind of episode. Like, if we wanted to go into tangents about shit, we could forever. Like, we could talk about Tate's psychology when he killed people or what the rules of being a ghost are. Like, but in terms of the actual episode, I don't know what there is for me to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably fair. And I don't want to go into too many things because they're explained later. So like,
Right.
yeah, so on that note, who do you want to punch in the face?
Hayden,
Yeah,
she sucks.
she does. She'd be my number one too, for sure. Um, yeah, she sucks. But since you picked her, I'd probably pick Larry because he's like putting gas.
That would have been my other choice, yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
loved I loved the scene. We didn't talk about it because it was so short and it was not really had didn't really have a point, but I loved the scene when oh shit, is Cody Zachary Quinto's name?
Chad.
Chad. I knew it was something with C that sounded like a white boy. Chad, when Chad was like, "What are you doing to my house?" When you, I was like,
Yeah, I just like
"Sir."
mentioned it in passing because it was like a
Yeah.
great scene.
Yeah, it was so short, but he was doing the gasoline and Chad was just like, "This is my house. You
Right,
don't
right. We don't do that here.
correct."
Yeah. Yeah, so who's your MVP of the episode then?
It was my MVP. I guess I'm gonna have to go with Tate, which is weird, seeing as we just found out that he did in fact murder a fuck ton of people.
Fair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Vivian. She's having a rough time, and she kind of like stood her ground still,
Yeah.
even in the dangerousness of the scenes. Um, yeah, I have a bit of trivia for you. One was that Ashley Rickards and Brando Eaton starred in Awkward, which we've
Okay.
mentioned. Um, Evan Peters and Ashley Rickards also played friends on One Tree Hill, which I did not
Mhm.
know. And also the scene where the girl was talking about referencing like you asked if I believed in God and I said I did and you shot me was a reference to Columbine where it was mistaken that that scene happened where it turned out in passing and over time they learned that really there was someone that the shooter had asked if they believed in God and they said yes and he didn't shoot them.
Right.
um, but the mistaken story is that he did shoot them after that, so this was a reference to that.
Sense. I mean, if what Tate did is not a reference to Columbine in general,
I Right, right. Yeah, so that's Halloween part
yeah.
two. We'll be getting into a new episode next week. I did look at the title and I do not recall what happens in this episode.
Oh,
So
good.
sorry, no spoilers.
That's okay.
Yeah, so if you have thoughts, if you have guesses on who's ghost and who's not, if you have thoughts on how the ghost handle the nighttime after Halloween, please feel free to email us, deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you for our next Sci Fi Sunday.
Bye.